Welcome, everybody, to today's podcast, Senior to Seniors podcast. And today I want to welcome, and I'm thrilled to introduce a pretty remarkable, by all accounts, individual who embodies the spirit of resilience and personal empowerment. Trunnis Goggins II, an accomplished entrepreneur, author, speaker, and educator. Trunnis is the visionary force behind the 4 Ps of You, a transformative framework centered on purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. Driven by his own life experiences, he inspires others to unlock their full potential and create lives rich with meaning and fulfillment. Through his engaging talks and impactful writings, Trunnis shares real life stories of triumph over adversity, encouraging individuals around the globe to embrace growth, leadership, and community impact. And today he joins us to delve into how seniors can harness these principles in their own journeys, proving that it's never too late. It's just never too late to pursue your passions and live a life of purpose. So please welcome Trunnis Goggins, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I am very glad to be here as well. Thank you so much for inviting me to the podcast.
So I want to start a little differently than maybe most people might expect. I want to read from your book, and I think it will wrap around who you are and some of your own life experiences. And on your book, which I have in front of me, which you can
Thank you.
kind of see here, right? Uh, you have on page 77 a quote here, and I want to read from it. Because the greatness comes not when things go always good for you, but the greatness comes when you are really tested, when you take some knocks, some disappointments, when sadness comes. Because only if you've been in the deepest valley can you ever know how magnificent it is to be on the highest mountain. And it's a quote from Richard Nixon, and it's apropos because so many of us on this podcast are familiar with Richard Nixon as seniors, right? We lived through his time. So wrapping around this quote and talking about, the deepest valley, disappointments. I know you've had those disappointments. You've been in the deepest valley. Tell us a little bit about your story, Trunnis.
Thank you. I was born in Buffalo, the deepest valley I've ever been in. And first of all, I want to go back to that quote. That quote has, I actually saw that quote when I was in my teens. Obviously, we all probably watched it on TV. I'm not trying to show my age, but I was 3 years old when Richard Nixon resigned from office, and it is a memory of that time. And I was always kind of intrigued by him because he was such a wise man in so many aspects. And honestly, he did something pretty stupid. You know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
To back it up. So I've always been intrigued by him as an individual. And that quote that um, he said that just hours before he walked out of the White House.
Hmm.
And so this is an individual who's going through, he is in his deepest valley.
Right.
I mean, there's nobody in who's ever been in the White House who's ever been that deep. He's
Yeah,
forced out of the White House.
yeah.
And so he gives this advice. He goes on to, and the greatest thing about this is he said it when he didn't know there was going to be a mountaintop again.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And when
yeah.
he said it, he ended up becoming a great advisor and this, that, and the other. So it does give me a lot of inspiration when I hear that quote because of the time he said it, not why he said it. It was the time he said it.
Hmm.
And I have gone through, and everybody has. The deepest valley I was ever in was when I lost my daughter.
Right.
I lost my daughter to a homicide, and it was deep. It was very deep. As a matter of fact, that was the only time in my life where I never wanted to quit, okay? But I wouldn't mind if it was over.
Hmm.
It's like, if I don't wake up tomorrow, it's okay with me. I've already got everything set up for the rest of my family, but I don't care. And it wasn't until I literally went back to that quote to realize, that things can be a little, can get and will get better. You're always going to have those hurts, but you're always going to have things that can get better. So yeah, I mean, my story is, some of the things that happened to me were things that I had no control of. But like everybody else, some of the things that happened to me were things I had total control of and just made the wrong decision at times. Mhm.
Yeah. So, what people should know, first of all, one of the things before we started is you said you'd just been in Chicago because your son graduated from boot
Yeah.
camp, the
Hmm.
Navy, and you're
Yes.
also a Navy veteran. I meant to
Hmm.
say that at first. Thank you so much for your service,
Thank you.
Trunnis. But people should know you're a father of nine, and
Mhm.
you also have three grandchildren.
Yes.
So you've kind of walked the walk, right? You've been there, you're doing it, and so you know about it. So when you wrote the book, what inspired you to write the four P's? What was the thinking behind that?
The four P's actually came in my darkest valley.
Hmm.
Okay. After my daughter had passed away, I was living, I had a good job. I had a fantastic job. I was married. I had a beautiful house. I had all the things that America wants to have, but I was miserable. I was very miserable. And one day I said, I was driving to work. I had an hour drive from work. I lived in Indianapolis at the time, and I had a drive from Indianapolis to Columbus, Indiana. And one day as I was driving, somebody stopped in front of me on the interstate. I was on Interstate 65, and they
Hmm.
just slammed on their brakes for no reason. There was nothing in front of them. Okay. And so I'm a New Yorker, but I was born in Buffalo. So, I always have that little bit of road rage. And I was like, what in the hell are you doing? And I still had a little while to go to drive. And I was just like, what is he doing? And something told me, you know, there was something in front of him. There had to have been.
Hmm.
Something made him stop. And then I thought, and I just dwelled on that for the whole day. And then I realized that I have to stop. And so what I did was, I was not in a good marriage because what happened in my marriage was, I was making unilateral decisions. One of my daughter who passed away had a son, and I thought that it would be, the best in his best interest to get custody of my son.
Yeah.
My wife at the time, who was not my daughter's mother, um, was totally against it, and I made a unilateral decision to do it, and knowing that it was going to cause misery and headache in the house, and I did it anyway. And then my job, I was getting further and further away from what I loved, my passion. Okay. And that was dealing directly with students, actually helping people. I love doing that. And I'm not saying that because, I want you to think, oh my God, this guy loves helping people. I just love when people's lives change, and I love that I'm a part of it. So there might be a
Hmm.
little selfish reason behind that.
Sure.
And I was getting further and further and further away from that, when I was getting into administration at the college I was working at. And then one day I just went and I said, you know what? I got to make a plan to get out of it. So I left my house. I left my job. I moved into a two-bedroom apartment, and I literally started at 49 years old,
Yeah.
48. I started all over again. I started from scratch.
Yeah. I don't know how
Everything
you
was
did
start
that.
me,
I just don't know how you did it.
and I'm going to tell you, it's funny that it was the best thing I ever did. And I mean, I literally I left everything. I stayed
Yeah.
in Indianapolis. I wanted to make sure that, like I said, my kids are very important to me. I wanted to make sure they graduated high school and stuff like that. I did not want to continue to live in Indianapolis. And once they got a certain age, I walked right out the door. Okay. But, and what I mean is I came here to North Carolina. But what I had to do is I had to get away, and I started and I rebuilt. But what I did at that point was I sat there. I'm a PhD. My dissertation was in strategic planning, and I said, okay, we are going to plan now. And how are we going to plan? Okay. We are going to plan. I mean, I spent all this money on an education. I spent all this time on an education. Let's see if this education can work in the personal
Hmm.
life. So
Hmm.
what I did was I started the four P's. I said, this is how I'm going to get to where I am today. And this is when I'm going to get to where I am today. This is how I'm going to get to where I am today. And so what I said is, what's my purpose? Okay. And at that point, I had lost what my purpose was. And we all do that throughout life. We lose our
Hmm.
purpose. We just do, we go from one step to the next step to the next step, and the next step, and we lose it. And I said, and after I reestablished what my purpose was, I had to make a plan to get there. And then I had to make sure that my purpose and my I was passionate about my purpose. That purpose had to be mine. And I got to the chancellor's cabinet at the largest community college in the country
Right.
because guess what? I was serving someone else's purpose. I was letting someone else say this is a good idea. And you know how we do this. It's almost like, I don't want to say keeping up with the Joneses, but it is. It's like, well, oh, it's the natural form of progression. Now I got to be president of some campus somewhere. And that's, you don't need to do that. If that's not what you're supposed to do, that's not where you fit in. And then at the other part, you have to be persistent. Like you said, you don't know how you did it. You know what? If you have a lot of passion to
Hmm.
get a smile on your face, you are definitely going to be able to get persistent, and you're going to be able to get rid of everything and rebuild and go from scratch. I did it at a very late age. I mean, literally, like had no retirement, had nothing, but it turned out to be the best thing. And
Yeah.
then when it actually worked, I wanted to write a book because I wanted everybody else to, if they have to, do it.
Sure. And to understand where you came from, you grabbed the four piece from where? Where did you get the four words? I mean, obviously, you're a PhD, you're in education, you're well read, so were the four piece from any place in particular? I know I work with, John Maxwell in the leadership realm, and of course, he's supposedly the top leadership, person in the world, but and he throws out lots of words. Where did you get the four piece?
Four P's, there's actually the four P's of marketing. If you ever took a marketing class, you always know
Uh-huh.
it's price,
Okay.
promotion, place, and placement. And
Right.
so, if I got that right, I don't remember. Out here, I'm
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
PhD and I'm doing it from the thing. So anyway, what I did was I took those four P's and I said, you know what? That is the foundation of marketing. You build a marketing plan, a good marketing plan based on those four P's. So I'm going to take four P's and I'm going to pull them out and I'm going to say, these are the four P's you need to build a life that you're going to get up in the morning. You're going to be happy.
Hmm.
And that's how I got it. It's still you have the four P's of marketing, you have the four P's of you, and that's how it is. And that's how I actually got it. I got it through those concepts.
Interesting. So the
Mm-hmm.
book is this, and of course I have a background here, so I'll kind of hold it up in front of me. So this book is called The Four P's of You. It's available on Amazon. It's available all over the place, so it's easy to grab. So the one concern that I'm seeing in my business, I've been in real estate for 30 years and 33 years before that, in business for 20 years, but what I'm seeing in the senior community, because I'm one of them,
Mm-hmm.
and I live in a senior community, is that for a lot of people, the passion is gone, the purpose is gone. It almost seems like I see people, see seniors quite literally wandering because they don't have a purpose. They're existing, they're living. It seems like maybe their single purpose might be staying as healthy as they can at this particular age. But how would you recommend, especially seniors? I know you're in your early 50s, you're a young man, but how do you see people can recapture their purpose, because most of these people had purpose. They
Mm-hmm.
did something before. They raised families, they had jobs, they maybe ran businesses. But when you've lost your purpose, maybe with your passion, how do you regain that? How do you suggest you regain it?
You are at as a senior, and I'm close enough to it. I'm a
Uh-huh.
grandfather now,
Yeah.
but as a senior, I'm going to tell you, you have an extremely, probably the most important purpose on the planet as a senior. If you have descendants, okay, if you have grandkids, if you have kids, great grandkids, whatever, it is imperative that you leave them with important life lessons. If you're a senior, you are guaranteed. I don't care. The smartest man I ever knew in my life had a third grade education. That was my dad's dad.
Hmm.
Smartest man I ever met in my life. He was super smart. He instilled in me so many life lessons that I am now 54 years old and I'm still, oh, I remember he said that to me. You have a you have a phenomenal purpose to leave your family with life lessons so they can move forward. So they're going to probably make the same mistakes, but they're going to get out of that mistake a lot quicker.
Sure.
That is your purpose right now, is to be that sage. You are the sage on the stage. You are the knowledge. You are absolutely the knowledge. And that is what you need to do. You need to get up every day saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to share my, and if you don't have descendants, it doesn't matter. Your next door neighbor needs to hear something from you. And tell them, and just force it on them if you have to, hey, I got a story for you. And that's what
Hmm.
I think that, that's how you instill, and you get up and you do, go and teach, go do something, go
Right.
inspire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and this book is literally an instruction manual on how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
How, and there's so much. There is so much seniors, as you said, uh, can offer. So
Mm-hmm.
many people, whether it's in the schools and they need help in the classrooms, um, and it's for an organization that needs you, that's underfunded, that needs volunteers, that needs help. So finding the passion, finding the purpose is, in your instruction manual, the 4 Ps. So can you tell us a personal story? Because it appears to me persistence has been a big part of your life. And obviously it's a part of your book. It's one of your 4 Ps. So how has, talk about persistence. How's that made a difference between success and not being successful for you?
My dad used to sit there and tell me that life is going to be hard. All
Hmm.
right. He used to get up in the morning, and I will say, I still call my mother. My mother's still alive. I used to call my mother in the morning, and I called my father at night. My mother would give me the pep talk in the morning. You're like, hey, da 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 da. You're a great guy. And then my dad, as I was coming home from work, my dad would give me the reality check at night. So life is hard.
Yeah.
Um, but there is, when you, and I don't like to revert back to this, but I think the time that I had to get the greatest test of persistence was having to move forward. Um, when I was almost done with my PhD dissertation, when my daughter passed away, and I remember, it was she passed away on a Friday. That following Tuesday, right before her funeral, I got an email from my dissertation chair. I didn't tell her because,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
I mean, I had other stuff to do. And the
Yeah.
email came across, and it said, hey, we were supposed to meet, and I totally forgot. What's going on? Is there anything I can help you with? So I sent her an email right back. And in that email, I said, can you just give me 2 weeks? That's all I did. Give me
Hmm.
2 weeks. I got to shake this off a little bit. Give me 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so she said, you're probably going to need longer. I said, no, I just need the 2 weeks. I went ahead and literally 4 weeks after that email, I defended my dissertation.
Hmm.
I defended it um, because I had a job to do. And my job was, like you said, I have 9 kids. I had 8 still living. I had another grandchild that was there. I had all these different things. I still had a mortgage. I still had this. I still had that. Um, I mean, it doesn't wait for you. So what the feeling, I that was the first time that, I really took the mental stage of persistence to a whole new level. Where it took everything in my power to get up every single morning to do it. So when I talk to people, and I've had people on my podcast that show outstanding, examples of persistence in their life as well.
Yeah.
Um, Persistence, I'm going to go back to what my father said. Life is hard.
Hmm.
It is always going to be hard. And I'm telling an audience that already knows that life is hard. Okay, I
Hmm.
already know that. You guys already know. But the
Hmm.
thing is, we're not, and I'm saying this now as a 54-year-old man. In my life, I am a Christian and I read the Bible. The only person that got out of here alive had to die first anyway.
Hmm.
I mean, so
Right.
we're going down.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're going down. Um, so but when you do, make sure you are enjoying every, because life is beautiful as well. It's hard, but it's beautiful. Enjoy everything and leave something behind to make the ugliness of life a little bit more
Mm.
tolerable to the people behind you. And that's what persistence is all about, because people, are the greatest movies that people love, Rocky, Shawshank Redemption, all these movies, those are people who literally had to overcome massive resistance. We are celebrating the 250th year of our nation,
Hmm.
and that was nothing but absolute persistence.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what, draw from those stories, draw from your own experiences. And I'm going to tell you, the victory after struggle is so much better.
Yeah.
It really is.
It
Mm-hmm.
certainly is. You talk about storytelling. And storytelling, I think, plays a big part of what you do. You're a speaker. You probably don't like being called a motivational speaker, but in what you do, it's motivational in itself. But storytelling is a big part of what you do. So how do you think sharing, for example, the personal experiences that you've had can help can can help people, especially seniors? Uh, how can that inspire others? How do you use storytelling to inspire people?
I use storytelling to inspire people, but I use storytelling in a way that, if I can do it, so can you.
Mm,
Okay, you have to want to do it. And I give examples so then you can look at those examples and say, okay, what could I do? What can I pull out of that situation that I can utilize in my life? My father he was a entrepreneur, and we would go on vacations. I'll never forget going to like Cedar Point and things like that back up east. And my father would sit in a restaurant, or he would be we had a roller skating rink. He would look around and he would look at different rides or different attractions. When we were in a restaurant, for his nightclub, he would look at the chandeliers. He would look at the designs. He would look at all this stuff. And I remember one day asking him, I said, "What are you looking at?" He goes, "I'm looking for ideas.
mm,
So then I can take them home and incorporate them in my business." And, at the time, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And what ended up happening was now I do that. So I will listen. I mean, we're talking about podcasts, your podcast, my podcast. I love the background of your podcast. I mean, my background of the podcast came up from, different ideas from things I've done in the past. I saw this show called I forget, it was some show about houses, and they put license plates up. So even like mine is like the license plates in the back are places that I've done speaking engagements, except for that one that says Trunnis, because sometimes I forget my name. But all that stuff. I mean, I have one from Australia. When I went to Australia, I have Quebec, Ontario, Nevada, Tennessee. I have them all over the place. I have to put my Illinois one up here pretty soon. But anyway, those are things that I do, and I got that from an idea. And we could do that with stories as well. We can learn from other people's experiences, and sometimes they will share a story, but then good storytellers will tell you the lessons learned, and good listeners to stories will take those lessons learned and apply it to what they have to do
mm,
in life.
hmm. Hmm. Tell me, do you journal? Are you a journalist? Do you sit down and write? I mean, you talked about your father, that he took things in and it went up here. I don't know if he
Mm-hmm.
wrote things down maybe when he got
No,
home. Or do you journal? Do you write? How how do you how do you put all that together?
I keep it. I actually do exactly what my dad did. I just keep it right up here. It stays there. And sometimes, I forget it and it comes back, years down the line or days down the line, whatever. But yeah, I just keep it up there. I do write. Obviously, I write books, but I
Yeah.
do. I just keep it up. I keep it up top. I do write a lot as far as like things to do and plans and things like that. But other things, I just keep it. I keep it upstairs.
You know,
Yeah.
one of the things that when I mentioned John Maxwell, and when I visited his home and visited his office, he has a system for keeping all of his ideas, and he sat at his big beautiful desk and pulled out a drawer on his desk, and in the desk were just simple file cards, just the simple
Hmm.
things you buy, at Staples or wherever you go, and all of them had thoughts, things that he had taken in, and that's how he builds his books. He has idea. It's an idea desk, and it was
Right.
amazing. It was just amazing, and uh, you can keep them in your head. I need to write everything down, and then of course trying to find what I've written down is another challenge. But so you can storytelling's a big deal. Can you share any particular story of triumph over adversity? Is there a particular story that you can think of?
Oh, I'm going to share my son's story,
All
if you
right,
don't mind.
please.
Like you said, I just left my son, and I'm going to tell you, I mean, um, nothing will bring a tear to your eye quicker than watching your son parade across a parade deck in a United States military uniform.
Yeah,
And I did. I cried because number one, I walked across that parade deck many, many years ago,
sure.
and to see him walk across the same parade deck just brought, a great feeling in my head. So my son comes to me back in 2025. It was 2025 or late 2025 and said, or 24, and said, Dad, I'm joining the Navy. Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing. He's 19 years old, almost 20. I'm like, dude, I told you to do this the day you got out of high school, whatever. And so he goes in and he says, I want to go into special war. And I'm like, it's Navy, son. And I'm like, you can join for sure, but you need to swim. You need to know how to swim. Now,
Hmm.
my son did not know how to swim. He didn't.
Yeah.
And what he did was he joined the Navy. And I knew they were going to get him at least swim qualified. So you can swim from one end of the pool to the next. Anybody can do that.
Sure.
But what he wanted to do required expert swimming.
Hmm.
Expert swimming. That kid and that man, every single day, gym every day, Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday, whatever, he would go. He went to the JCC and found somebody at the JCC who was a competition swimmer. And that competitive swimmer, helped him in swimming. Then he found a retired SWIC, Special Warfare,
Hmm.
Navy individual in
Hmm.
Indiana who every single Monday they went and swam. And I was like, deep down in my head is like, hey, he signed the contract. They're only going to let him stay home so long to learn how to swim so he can get special warfare. But this is the contract is contract. And so he would get another extension and another extension. Dad, I won't go this month. I'm going to go 6 weeks from now, whatever.
Hmm.
And one day he called me up and he was had me on speaker and he said, Dad, I have you on speaker with my recruiter. And the recruiter said, your son is getting a special warfare contract.
He
He
was
made it.
ready. Hmm.
That is, again, and I text him every single morning now since he's now going into he's in the fleet. And so I text him every morning, sailor to sailor, father to son. And he gets picked on, okay? His last name doesn't help him at all. But he gets picked on, but he is so his replies are unbelievable. His passion, his persistence is outstanding. He found his purpose
Hmm.
and he'll do whatever it takes to achieve that purpose. And so with seniors, and I'm going to close it out the story with this with seniors, there is another role that you are taking now. I watched after I saw my son graduate boot camp. I went and my daughter's about ready to finally have a daughter, which is great, because I really would love to have a granddaughter. Soften me up a little bit. I beat my grandsons up all the time, and it's a blast. So maybe
Yeah.
I'll get somebody I can hug a little bit. Anyway, I went and saw that, and I saw her in the role that I was in once before. And I realized with my kids, now I still have a grandson that I'm raising, but with my kids, my role has changed. It's not that they don't need me. I mean, they're paying their own bills, they're doing all their own things, they're making their own decisions, they're doing that. They do need me, but they need me in another role.
Hmm.
So when I drove from Indianapolis back to Asheville after seeing my daughter and spending time with my other kids and watching every single one of them are now adults, I realized that now I have a new role,
Sure.
same purpose, new role. And now that passion has now increased. Because now I'm passionate, just like I was passionate about taking my kids to Kings Island or wherever we're taking them. Now it is that passion is, you guys call me, I'm ready.
Hmm.
I'm ready to do my next role. And even though now, like even now as a sailor, I'll I would when my son was getting ready to graduate boot camp, I could have worn my uniform to the graduation. And the lady asked me, she goes, "Why aren't you wearing you're a veteran? Why aren't you wearing
Hmm.
your uniform?" Every other guy that could wear it or woman that could wear it as well, they wore their uniform. I did not.
Yeah.
And they said, "Why aren't you wearing your uniform?" I said, "Because this is no longer my Navy. This is my son's Navy.
Yeah.
And he is there to defend me just like I was there to defend him years ago. Now I'm here to advise him if he needs it, but he's got the watch."
Yeah.
And so that's what it is. And so that's how, that's how you gain your purpose back, by realizing what your role is and embracing it fully.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
so, someone that hasn't experienced a son or daughter graduating, being on the deck, my son is a Marine, and we went through the same thing with him. And it's a feeling that you can't duplicate as a father,
Mm-mm.
or
No, you
uh,
can't.
as a mother.
Mm-mm.
So, Trunish, your father must have had a huge impact on you. He was a great man. I want you to talk a little bit about your father and what you learned from your dad, and how he has helped shape all of this for you. Um,
Mm-mm.
tell that story. I would love to hear more about your father.
My father was a very he was an ambitious man. We debate, my sisters and I debate all the time, did he graduate high school or not? We don't.
Yeah.
We never saw any evidence that he did, but he never showed us any evidence that he did. Um, he had his flaws. Absolutely, he had his flaws. Um, and you can read about it in another book, not mine, my brother's. But he had an outstanding influence on me. He was very strong. I watched him behind the scenes. He was instrumental in the career of Rick James, the artist.
Okay.
He was instrumental in so many other musical guests in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
Tina Turner, people like that. Like I said, he had a nightclub. He had all this other stuff. He came from nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and he built himself up. Now we were actually we lived a great life as far as financially is concerned. Lots of turmoil in the house, lots of turmoil. Um, and but I will say throughout all of the turmoil, my father and I had a unique relationship. I was very close to my father. Um, even through all of the turmoil that went on, we were extremely close. So he does have a great influence on me. The greatest thing about the influence he has, the best time I now again I got to experience my father for 43, 42 years of my life,
Yeah.
and the greatest time I ever spent with my dad was the last 6 weeks of my father's life. Actually, about the last 12. But those last weeks of his life, he really taught me through his regret
Yeah.
and through his life lessons what was solely important. I learned more from my father in that 3 month time span than I ever learned from him before.
Hmm.
So that influence actually increased because I know now, am I going to have regret when I die? We all do. Okay.
Sure.
But I know that my level of regret will be minimized because he taught me what was absolutely, totally, and really important in life. You know, the movie Star Wars. I don't know how many people watched it. The old ones. I don't. The new ones, whatever. But
Right.
the old ones were awesome. There was a scene in I think it was Return of the Jedi, the last one when Darth Vader dies, and he had an interaction with Luke Skywalker, his son, and he got Luke Skywalker saw the good in his father, and he kept on pressing his dad. I know you got it in you. I know you're good. I know you're good. And then his father committed the ultimate sacrifice and saved his son, but he couldn't save himself. But at the end, there was an interaction where, I know I was a jerk all the way down the line, but this is how you're supposed to live right here.
Mm-hmm.
This little window I showed you should teach you everything you need to know. And that's exactly what I got from my father, and that's why even to this day, a lot of people can't say what I say
Yeah.
when it comes to that, but I do admire him because, like I did, he had a lot of good in him. He was a very ambitious man. He was a very smart man. He was a strong leader.
Mm.
But again, like I said, he had his flaws, and but yeah, I got to see that. I got to see that window of good in how you're supposed to live.
And so many sons and daughters don't have the opportunity to ever see that, to ever learn from that. And I kind of experienced the same thing with my mother and father were both diagnosed with cancer almost at the same exact time and were
Right.
dying together. And you learn so much through death and how people handle that and how they plan for that. And so, same here. You learn so much from that particular period of time. One of the things that so many people suffer from, Trunnis, is self doubt, and myself included. Am I good enough? Have I done as much as I should do? Did I do what I should have done when I was younger to put me in a positive place at this particular point? How do you suggest, especially seniors, if you can, and maybe you're not a senior yourself, but you're getting close, um,
Mhm.
you know, how to handle the self-doubt that creeps up, maybe with all of us? How do you suggest handling self-doubt?
You know, I am getting ready to do a CrossFit competition in Sydney, Australia. I'll be 55 years old when I
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it is a CrossFit. If no one's ever seen CrossFit's
It's
work, that
tough.
is the most punishing, the most ignorant sport you'll ever see in your
Yeah,
life. I
yeah.
love it. Okay. But it's just like, why would you do this to yourself?
Uh-huh.
When I first walked in, I said, I have a year to get ready for this competition. And I looked at all the stuff I had to do. I work out all the time. I've always worked out, but I've never done this type of workout. And for self-doubt, you have to walk into a place not knowing you learn so much from failure. Okay. So remember, wait to what I say this. You learn so much from failure. What you need to do going into anything. Just today, I had to climb a rope. I haven't climbed a rope since Bill Clinton was president of the United States. Okay. Today I did it. So I looked at it and I'm like, okay, this is going to be jacked up. I'm not going to make it all the way to the top, but I'm going to learn how to get there. And what I did at that point is now every time I go into something that I doubt, I always go in saying, through my failure, through my inadequacies, what am I going to learn so I can, number one, I can train, and number two, I can do it better next time. Don't go in. A lot of people self-doubt is when you go into something with an unrealistic thing. Get I'm going to get this right now, whatever this is. And you can't because you're not ready for what all this means.
Hmm.
And a lot of people, like for example, people when you're, and I'm going to go back to health a little bit, people when they're trying to lose weight or something like this, I need to get into a size one by next Tuesday. You're not going
Yeah.
to get into a size one by next Tuesday. But what you can do is start taking those steps and incorporating those habits. So when you do get into that size one, if that's where you want to go, I personally think you shouldn't. But if you do get into that smaller size, you are able to stay in that smaller size. And so to alleviate self-doubt, I go in there and I'm just realistic. You're not going to get all this done right now, but you're going to eventually get it done. You're going to have to learn through practice and through training. And that's how I always get. And do I second guess myself? Every single time I go to the gym. Every single time I go and speak in front of somebody, I second guess. What if I say the wrong thing, or what if this happens, or what if that happens? What if the equipment goes wrong? It doesn't matter. What am I going to learn so the next time I'm better
I
at?
can do better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it funny that one of the things that I teach, and I've been a coach in real estate for some time, for years, is how to handle failure. And isn't it funny that we're taught how to succeed and it's pushed on us? This is how you succeed. But no one or few people are taught how do you handle failure. And I think it's so important what you said. And one of the things that I teach is failure is normal, and the rope you tackle it, and you
Mm-hmm.
did it. Um, so I've asked you a lot of questions today,
Mm-hmm.
and I always ask my guest, Trunnis, what is one thing that I failed to ask you that I should have asked you, but I didn't? What is one thing we didn't cover? Is there one thing?
There isn't one thing, but there's one thing you need to always ask a Buffalonian. Are you a Bills fan? Yes, the answer is yes. The answer is absolutely yes.
Oh God.
No, but no. Yeah, you know that. I knew you were going to do that. We're obnoxious individuals, but yes. No, I actually had. Oh, we are. I think a Buffalo Bills fan is the most obnoxious person in the world, and I'm proud to be a part of them.
Yeah.
But um, but yeah,
Maybe
no. You
a Jets
go ahead.
fan maybe is worse. Huh?
I'm going to say this, and I shouldn't say this with the season about ready to start, but I really do feel sorry for Jets
Yeah.
fans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that they're obnoxious; it's just that they are. I do think that I just feel bad for them.
Yeah.
In hockey, I'm a Sabres fan, and the Jets and the Sabres
Equal
are
plane.
running neck and neck
Yeah.
as far as their futility. They're both very awful. But yeah, I do feel bad, and the thing is, even with the Jets, when you think they're going to be good, it's like something happens where they're not. And
Yeah.
and being a Bills fan, I will have to say I kind of rejoice,
Yes, sure.
but it's still I still feel bad for
Yeah.
him.
So what's the one thing that you can think of that I didn't ask you that I should have, but I didn't.
You know, um, I think because I'm almost becoming a senior,
Yeah.
you know, um, I'm at that time where I know that I am getting older. Um, you might want to ask me how I'm embracing um, the the future,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one thing. Yeah. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. So what is in your future? What is in your future?
Oh.
You write, you
Mhm.
speak. What is there in your future, maybe outside of what we don't know about you that you intend to do to change the world?
What I want to do is I want to live a great life. I do not, I am just intrigued. We are living longer as a society.
Mm-hmm.
I know a guy who was a Vietnam War vet. He's 83 years old. And when I go back to Indiana, I go to Indiana a lot. When I go back to Indiana, I play hockey with him. He's
Mm-hmm.
83 years
Mm-hmm.
old.
Mm-hmm.
He is in fantastic shape. So not only does he play hockey, he also plays in a softball league. Okay. He's in great shape. If you're playing hockey and you're skating like you're skating, you've got to be in great shape.
Sure.
He is a former Army, and I won't hold that against him, but he cusses like a sailor.
Mm-hmm.
And he jokes around. He allows people to joke with him. My thing is the day that is my last day on earth. I don't want to die like my father did. My father died literally, could not get up, could not walk.
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave this life, first of all, a long time from now, 40 years from now, if possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to leave this life and like, wow, you know what? I want somebody at my service to say, I just went to the gym with him yesterday.
Yeah.
That's how I want my life. I want to enjoy. I'm not going to ever sit there and say that, oh my gosh, it's time for me to slow down. I am not going to slow down. Obviously, I'm going to continue to find other things. There was a man that I met when he was 99 and he lived in an independent living center and he was 99 and he was the health and wellness coach on the facility. He was in fantastic shape, looked just like you and I, clear mind, clear head, clear everything. And I asked him, I said, what keeps you going? And he says, tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said. I said, what do you mean? He goes, the day I don't care about tomorrow, he said, guaranteed, young man, is the day I don't wake up.
Yeah.
He says, but that's what keeps me going. Tomorrow keeps me going. And that man, I forgot his name.
Hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most powerful message. And that's all I say. What keeps you going? And I'll sit there and tell somebody all this to this day. And I forgot his name, but I remember his advice.
Sure.
What keeps me going is tomorrow.
Well,
And that's what I want to do.
you know the rope you talked about from what you're trying to get done and
Mm-hmm.
looking at the rope, maybe that is one of the defining objects will define you, that you'll be climbing a rope when you maybe take your last breath. Who knows? Maybe
Absolutely. That you know what? The way I did it today, that might come sooner
it
than you
could
think.
forget the 40 years thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, well,
Mhm.
it's been nice meeting you and talking to
Nice
you.
meeting you as
And
well.
yeah, I hope I don't read about you dying on the rope in the
No, I
news
won't.
media and so
Mhm.
forth. Uh,
Mhm.
so, how do you've got a great book,
Thank you.
and so people can grab your book, The Four Ps of
Mhm.
You. They can
Mhm.
grab that anywhere, and it's an easy read. It's not a great big thick book. I think it's
Mhm.
less than 100 pages. It's an easy read, but it's a powerful read. And
Thank you.
you also have a podcast that people can find you on, which
Yeah.
I love. You have so many guests that talk about so many different things. Was not what I expected when I was started, doing research on you. It was much broader than I
Mhm.
thought it would be. But how do people get a hold of you if they don't purchase your book? If they don't go to your podcast, you have a website, and how can people contact you?
You can reach me. You can reach me at obviously you can reach me on my website. You can email me at trunnisgoggins2.com. So it's Trunnis at trunnis.goggins2.com. You can also, you can get me on Instagram, you can get me on Facebook, you can get me on TikTok as long as it's around. You can get me on anywhere. But like I said, I'll be on YouTube. You'll see me say something or do something here every so often. But yeah, you can reach me anywhere. Mhm.
Well, I'm so glad I found you, and I sure appreciate you joining today.
Thank you.
And I hope we have the opportunity to meet in person, and at the very least to talk again. Trunnis Goggins, um, this was fun. I enjoyed it so much. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you to my audience, and be sure to go to the YouTube channel or wherever you watch or listen to the podcast and like it, subscribe to it, and thank you so much for being here today. Have a great day, everyone.